Hello and welcome back to the Bulldog Reports podcast. I'm Sydney Gordeski, and this is the second episode in our How to High School series where I sit down with sophomore, now junior, Abner Chaplin, talk about his sophomore year. We talk about the differences between freshman and sophomore year, the challenges, and the rewards, and how to handle both of those things. I hope you enjoy this episode and find it helpful, and we will be back next week with junior Mary McGrath. You could just familiarize our audience with your class schedule. We'll get more into the challenges and rewarding parts of the classes later, but just familiarize us with the classes that you're taking.
So in general, I'm taking all really the basic classes for sophomores in high school. I take chemistry, just regular chemistry. I'm taking honors English. I'm taking AP US 1 in high school. I'm taking just regular geometry as well as Spanish 3.
Awesome. And it is important to note that with the way that our schedule works, Spanish 3 is an accelerated, being a sophomore in Spanish 3 is an accelerated class. What is the biggest challenges and what is each grade known for? And I think the biggest thing that sophomore year is known for is, I would say, two things. Number one, it's your first opportunity to take an AP. And number two, is your first opportunity to take a test like the PSAT. So can you walk us through your experience taking your first AP and then the PSAT?
Sure. So I would like it to be noted that I was on the verge of not taking AP US 1, and that was a huge mistake because I ended up really enjoying it and really excelling in the class. It is definitely a really difficult class, and if you're not that passionate about just history in general, it might not be for you. But in general, I really enjoyed the class. You're assigned a chapter you have to take notes on every week, and then along with that, there are some like comprehension assignments along with it. And it's definitely a heavy workload, but in my opinion, it's really worth it.
You talk about that heavy workload. Two things. Did you experience a workload like this in your freshman year? And how have you managed to take on this workload and continue to be successful?
So my freshman year, I never really experienced this workload. I had Miss Blaze for Honors World Cultures, and it really wasn't the same at all. AP US 1 was much faster paced, and in general, it was a task to take on the workload in the beginning of the year because I wasn't really used to it. But eventually, at the beginning of cycle 2, I started getting used to it, and then it just kind of just it became my new normal from there. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, I would say, but after you've gotten used to it, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I think that adjustment period is something students don't always expect. And I mean, good things take time. So I'm glad that you were able to get adjusted to that.
And then, well, when I first started freshman year, I was like, oh crap, I gotta take the PSAT. And then, oh my god, I messed up. I messed up my word. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, okay. So you're in the summer of your freshman year. You start.
No, I meant the summer before my sophomore year. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. So you start thinking now. Moving on to the PSAT. When did you start thinking about the PSAT? Why did you think it was important to take why did you think it was important to take the PSAT?
So, in general, I started thinking about it the summer before my sophomore year. I talked to some teachers and some mentors of mine, and they all said you don't really need to stress about it because it's not graded in any way, and it just gives you a basic idea about how we will do on the SAT.
And what you need to change probably too, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But I would like to note that if you don't do that great on it, don't stress about it because most of the stuff on the PSAT you haven't learned yet, and you learn it throughout your sophomore year. And personally, I took it at the very beginning of sophomore year, which wasn't really the greatest experience because I got all upset because I didn't do that great. But I was reassured that it's completely fine because we haven't learned it. And then I'm taking some courses this summer and next fall about taking the SAT and like what's going to be on it. And I feel I'm definitely going to be more prepared.
Right. So it seems that that there really is no necessary preparation for the PSAT. I mean, the P in PSAT I think stands for SAT. So I think maybe what we're getting at here for the audience is that the PSAT in and of itself is a preparation. and
Yes.
then you see where you can adjust. That's important to note. I didn't realize that was really the purpose of it. What academic challenges have you faced?
So throughout sophomore year, just coming into sophomore year, it was definitely a big challenge. The workload easily tripled. I mean, I was struggling a lot in the first quarter, but as it went on, I adjusted myself. I adjusted like how much I hung out with friends, and like what I did after school to account for this workload, and I definitely made it through. I would say that honors English, geometry, and AP US 1 were definitely the classes with the heaviest load, and Spanish does have like in the beginning, my teacher, she gives us just a little bit of work and she advances it throughout the year, which I really like because it gives you a chance to improve yourself and it gives you more time at home to practice, which is great as because I went on the Spain trip, and that is towards the end of the year, and that was just an amazing experience in general. But the whole doing Spanish and like having the Spanish like increase the workload throughout the year definitely helped me prepare for that.
So you talk about this workload, and you mentioned the amount of time that you hang out with your friends and the amount of time that you do extracurricular activities. I think it's important to note, and we forget this as students, that you are a person first and then you're a student. So how have you managed being a person, having relationships with your family, with your friends, and still being a successful student?
So what I forgot to point out earlier is that I counted this time for all the clubs that I'm in and for marching band, and I'm in various amount of clubs. I'm in GSA, the Dungeons and Dragons Club, the Cards and Crafts Club. I do the play, and I am in marching band. Those are the big five, really. And I counted all this for those time commitments, but in general, I was able to succeed even with those extreme time commitments on me because I got help from a counselor from a college counselor to help me manage my workload, and I got tutors. And even if you don't really have the access to those resources, you can go in for extra help with your teachers. Like I know that I discussed with some of my teachers, hey, can I come in A day, B day, and C day before school for some help? And I guarantee they're gonna say yes, because they said yes for me and they said yes for so many other kids, and that really saved my grade.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Anyone you talk to, parents, administrators, teachers, they all say come in for extra help. But what makes specifically sophomore year unique?
So in general, freshman year the school and like the teachers tend to like treat you more like a child, but sophomore year is when you like really get a full sense of independence. Like that this was really the first time that I was away from my family for a long time. As I mentioned, the Spain trip, I was away from the country for 9 days, and it was just an amazing experience with my teachers and my friends. And and like the teachers, they put more responsibility on you, but that is both a blessing and a curse because you have more responsibility and you have more like flexibility of when you do your assignments, but you just have more assignments in general. And I feel it's definitely great that they give you more responsibilities, and I know my parents gave me more responsibilities as well, and that along with that came more freedoms. Like they let me go into New York with my youth group by myself for the first time, and that was just an amazing experience. So I feel that sophomore year brings new challenges, new freedoms, and just better experiences with those freedoms.
You talk about the Spain trip, you talk about the trip to New York, and there's been other ones in between. What has prepared you for these trips? Especially, I'm thinking specifically about the Spain trip, right? You While there's many tourists in Spain, I'm sure there was times where you had to speak Spanish, and that's just one example. Oh, taking my Spanish class helped me prepare for the Spain trip. But what else has helped you prepare as a person for these bigger uh, opportunities and privileges?
In reality, I feel that speaking with upperclassmen actually helped me with this, and this is why we're doing this podcast to prepare underclassmen for these years. And for me, it was just I spoke with a bunch of different upperclassmen about their experiences going on trips such as these, And although it was kind of hard, I had to speak with some seniors about it because coronavirus and all that craziness. But definitely speaking with upperclassmen really guided me through these experiences and helped me prepare myself.
Now, in this podcast, in this situation, we are recording this at the end of June of the 2023 year. But come fall, when this releases, you will be the upperclassmen. So for the rising sophomores, current sophomores who are listening to this, what advice would you give about these trips to the underclassmen?
In general, just take it easy. Don't stress about it. Just trust your teachers and just go with the flow, really.